Hey guys, and welcome to Faith Works Designs. I'm Faith, and today we are doing a really exciting video. I have seen this pattern all over Facebook and just have not had time to do it. So I had about a week off and I was like, I need to try this pattern out, and I am so glad that I did. So in today's video we are going to be doing the pumpkin. I'm also going to be showing you how to put the little lines on his face without having to use a marking tool or a marking pen. So I'll show you a little trick that I do to be able to do that. But I wanted to show you guys how versatile this pattern is. In the main Hugo bag, you have a pattern for both a dog and a cat. So I made our little sweet Bella. It looks just like my puppy. And then of course we have McGonagall, so we had to do a bag like McGonagall. And so that is like your basic bag. It just gives you the structure for a dog and a cat, but it gets even better. In her add-ons, she has things that you can make, like there's kind of more like a spooky thing. There's an alien, a ghost, gosh, there's a skull, there's a bunch. So you have to actually buy the Hugo bag pattern itself, and then if you wanted to do the extras, you have to go on and purchase the add-ons, and they're not that expensive, and there are so many designs like this cute little ghost that you can add on to that. Also, because the pattern is so versatile and you can put it in your Cricut design space, you can put it in whatever program you're using, you can actually add on different faces. So if you want to know about this, stay tuned to the outro and I will tell you how I did this. I can't wait to show you this, guys. Let's get started. So first things first, what you're going to need to do is go into design, Cricut design space, or whatever program you're using to be able to cut these out with either your Silhouette or your Cricut. You're going to have a couple things. You're going to have your face, and then you are going to have the little black material that's going to go underneath of your main panel. So it's going to go underneath of him. We're going to need to put those to our canvas and then cut those out. I've decided not to put it on the canvas and then show you guys because it does have the measurements and everything on it, and sharing a pattern for free is not cool. So I'm going to go put it on my canvas and then we'll cut it out. Alright, so I have got my Cricut all geared up, attached to my computer. I've got my little slab of orange that I'm going to use for the body. Do not judge my mat. It probably most likely needs to be cleaned. So you're going to take your vinyl right side down. You don't have to mirror this, it really does not matter. But I cut out my design about 1/2 inch bigger all the way around, just so that I make sure that I get all of it. And then right now I'm trying to preserve the mats that I have so I don't have to buy any more. So I take a roller, make sure that the vinyl is nice and adhered to my mat. I am going to put her in like so. If you're wondering what setting to use, I use the outdoor vinyl setting on my Cricut machine, and that penetrates enough so that it cuts through all of that thick vinyl. Alright, so we've got our front piece cut out. I went ahead and did my back. I have got the black that goes underneath of his happy little face. But before I do anything, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a lighter. You see the edges are kind of, depending upon what vinyl you use, they're kind of like really rough, and I fear that after a while they'll unravel a little bit. So I just kind of hold it like this and just barely run my lighter right along those edges. And I try and do that on all of my edges. And this may be overkill, okay, so don't judge me. But I just want to make sure that I don't have those raw edges. They're nice and melted down. And it just makes me feel better I don't have to worry about it. But you do have to be careful because you might singe the front. I've done that a couple of times. So just take your time. Don't get super close. I'm just like melting this white that's on the back. I have marine canvas or marine vinyl. And so I'm just that one layer, I'm just melting it so that I don't have to worry about those getting frizzy after a little bit of time. Again, that's probably overkill, but I just wanted to show you guys that that's what I do. Alright, now we're going to flip this over and I am going to grab some double-sided tape. And I'm just going to put it in a few spots, if I can find the beginning of my tape, so that it just kind of holds the black vinyl in place. And then I'll add the black piece and we'll go ahead to the sewing machine and start going around all of his little facial features. So we're going to take this and we're going to center it as best we can. You can kind of feel with your fingers. You need to make sure that it's away from any of your edges. So you can kind of tell that it needs to overlap where his little smile is. You need to make sure you can kind of feel with your fingers the black, because you don't want the black like right up here because you're using about 1/8 of an inch to go around a top stitch. So you want to make sure there's plenty of fabric. So I'm just going to push those down. And if you want, you can add more tape so that it's not bouncing around, but that's all I'm going to use for right now. Let's go to the sewing machine and top stitch. Before you get started, make sure that you have plenty of bobbin, because nothing is more annoying than getting started and then having to stop because you didn't put enough bobbin in, because you're going to use a lot on the face. So I've got my stitch length at a 4, and I am just going to go, I'm going to start on the mouth. That one's the one that's going to take the longest amount of time, but if you can, try and use your foot as a guide. And take your time doing this because it's really going to show up if you just kind of willy-nilly it. The teeth are what get me. I'm like, there's so many grooves. And I'm just going to get as close as I can to the end. And it's kind of one of the things that I don't like about the sewing machine is I can't see where I'm going sometimes. Like, I got as close as I could to the edge because you don't want that little... this little flapping up. So I just get as close as I can. And then just go all the way around to the nose and the mouth, and then we'll keep going. Alright, so we're all sewn up. I just oiled my machine the other day, so it's like coming off everywhere. Okay, I got the front all done and sewed up around the eyes, the nose, and the mouth. The next thing that you can do, and this is totally up to you, I have one of those Mormino silver ink pens that you can write on vinyl and be able to kind of wipe it away. And it's just certain vinyls, it leaves like a little tiny bit of resemblance of it having been there, even no matter how much I wipe it down. And this particular orange, for some reason, does it. So, in your pattern, you actually have a PNG file that you can print out, which is awesome, because we're going to do this just like you would reverse applique. I did some Christmas ornaments like this, but I am going to lay it out like so, and trying to put the mouth and the eyeballs all together. I'm going to clip them together, and I am going to sew right on top of the paper. I know, it sounds a little crazy, but the paper, you will be able to peel it back. Once it's perforated, you can peel it out, peel it back, peel it off, and then you've got your perfect little stuff and thing. So I just want to double check that I'm feeling where I need to be. Alright, so now where to start? So I'm going to start with this side. I do have 4 stitch lengths still going. And I'm just sewing right on that line. And you remember what I said about making sure you had a full bobbin? Alright, so side note, if you are doing the paper piecing kind of situation, you want to make sure, especially if you have to stop in the middle because you forgot to check your bobbin, you definitely want to make knots where you stop. Because you're going to be pulling that paper off, and it could potentially tear your thread out. So it would have just, I would have pulled it and it just would have come off and I would have been mad. So, alright, starting again. Even when you're doing, like right now, when I'm doing the center one, I am going to tie that knot in the very beginning. When I pull the threads through, I'm going to go down to the bottom. I'll do that middle section by itself. You'll see what I mean once you go to pull off the paper. You really just need to make, like I started right here in the center. I'm going to pull that through, and then I'm just going to make a knot and burn the ends. And then when I pull my paper off, that thread won't just come back through on its own. So I'm going to finish this, and then when I go to peel the paper off, I'll turn the camera back on, that way you can see. Alright, so I've got all of my knots at my certain points that I had to start and stop for the paper. We just did down. I do need to do right where his nose is, but I want to do that where I can see it. Alright, so we're going to take the paper, and you can kind of, it's already perforated from sewing. So you can take it and kind of peel it back. That'll be a lot easier. Take your fingers and kind of press, and then rip it out. Now this does take a minute. It's an extra minute, but I feel like my lines look so much better when I just take a second and do it like this. So I'm going to rip all this paper off, which is going to feel like an eternity with the camera on. So I am just going to go ahead and peel this all off camera so that this video will not be 900 million years long. And then we will get to the next piece. But you can see where my lines already are. So much better looking than trying to freehand it or trying to follow lines that I drew. You don't want the lines that I draw. Alright, let me finish getting this paper off. Alright, so we have got our face all done. All of my paper is off. Looks great. We're going to set that aside. We're going to grab our handle and the two sides of our zipper gusset. We're not going to deal with this just yet, but we're going to keep it where we can get it. We're going to grab our handle, and what you're going to do is you're going to put these edges together right here. And what you're going to do is you're going to sew this together. You're going to start right here, sew all the way down, making sure that you're back stitching when you start and when you stop, because we're going to be pulling this inside out in just a minute. Alright, so your handle should now look like this. We just sewed all the way down. The next thing I'm going to do is some sort of turning tool. You're going to have it to get the handle in through this hole and turned inside out. So I've got this handy dandy, don't ask me what the name of it is, Clover something. I'm going to use this to help me turn this inside out. So I'm just going to kind of fold it in on itself. I'm going to grab those teeth and hang on to it, snap it down so it's holding on to it. And then I'm going to take it back down into this hole. I'm trying to keep this tucked in on itself. It does not want to. And then you're just going to kind of take it all the way through. Now, depending upon what vinyl you have, you may have a little bit of wrinkles in your handle when you finish pulling it through, this one kind of wrinkles a little bit, which is frustrating, but it straightens out once I get it nice and flat and do the next couple of steps. So, not super worried about it. So I'm going to pull it through very carefully and gently, because this tool is not the greatest, but it'll do. So I'm going to hang on to this with my hand now, and I'm just going to pull it through, just like that. See how it's just a teeny tiny bit wrinkly now? Just keep that in mind when you're looking for the fabric that you're going to use. Alright, we've got our little handle. Now we need a piece of Decoville light. I should have actually cut mine longer, but it will do. You really don't want to put the Decoville light in there before you turn it inside out. Ask me how I know. I tried to interface the Decoville light to the handle beforehand so that it would be in place and I'd have to guess where it was supposed to go, and it was a bear and a half to turn inside out. So don't do that. Also, cut your Decoville light to the length of your little strap. This is fine, it's going to do. So you got your seam right here. You want to push it to one side or the other. And I'm going to clip it down so that it doesn't wiggle any. And I'm also going to try and get my Decoville light in the center. Alright. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take this to the sewing machine and we're going to try and close this up as best we can. I'm going to kind of hold it closed. Start 1/8 of an inch away from the edge, come down, around, up, and back. And that will make our kind of center handle part. Alright, so I am going to change my stitch length to a 4. I'm going to hold this end closed. I'm going to start 1/8 of an inch in. You don't want to start right on the edge. Put your needle down, swivel away, and then come right before it ends. You want to stop. Alright, now that we've got our handle all done, I'm going to take this back to the table and then we're going to show you how to put the little hooks and stuff for your D-ring. Alright, so our handle's in prep and I am sitting down because I can't do the standing. I just mentally cannot handle it. Okay, I have got this strap holder bridge and that's what I've been using on all of mine. It's really nice not having to try and put a D-ring on here or having to deal with all of that. But it looks like this. So it has your prong so that it goes up underneath of this, and then you have this little part on the top that your strap hardware connects to. I really, really like these for this bag. So I will show you how we're going to put them in. So we're going to need a small ruler or a regular ruler, and we're going to need to mark the center of our Decoville light, the center of our handle here. If you're unsure where the center is, just kind of fold it in half a little bit, and then you can mark the center. Alright, now we're going to take a piece of Decoville light. We're going to take a piece of double-sided tape and we're going to do that on both sides. Alright, now we're going to take the tape off, if it will come off, and we're going to make our sides meet the center. I'm going to grab a small little ruler and a marking tool. It doesn't matter on this side of the fabric, you're not going to see it. I'm going to take from this stitch line right here where my handle is, I'm going to mark down 2 inches. Now you do need to follow the pattern if you're going to do it directly like the pattern, but this is how I'm doing it because I'm using these little connectors. Then I'm going to take my little washer that comes with my connectors, and I'm going to put the first one on that first line and then make my second line on the second side. Then I am going to grab my seam ripper Now, if you're using white vinyl, this ink ends up all over the place. I have one that I had to finish, and the ink was everywhere. So I always have a glass of water or something next to me so that I can wipe those markings off and get that marker out of here so I don't have to worry about it getting on anything else. Was a light beige I was using, and it was all over the light beige, so I had to throw that all away because it just would not come off, no matter if I used water or not. So from the top, you're going to put your little connector, turn it over, and then put your washer on, and then push those legs outward. They're not going to hurt anything being outward like that. Just make sure they're going this way instead of that way. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grab some more double-sided tape. I'm going to put it right on top of that. Now I'm going to go do the other side, and then I'll show you how to put it onto the main panel of your bag. Well, I thought I was recording. So you have two parts that go to your zipper gusset. You have a smaller piece and a larger piece. You're going to attach your handle to your zipper gusset larger side by putting it on your mat and kind of finding where the center is, and then taking your double-sided tape off, putting your handle down the center. Next thing that we're going to do is we're going to go to the sewing machine and sew with a 4-stitch length. We're going to sew down about 1/8 of an inch to where the handle stitches start, come over and back down again. We're going to do that on both sides. Sorry about that. Alright, we got our handle all put together. Now you could go ahead and put your little square pieces on here. I actually like to wait until I'm done with the bag, just because it's a little bit easier and not having to worry about seams and all that stuff. So if you want to, you could go ahead and put that on. Now I have grabbed the zipper that I'm going to use, and I have also burnt the ends of my zipper because it is a nylon zipper. You want to make sure you do that so it doesn't come unraveled. Next thing you're going to do is put right side of the zipper to the right side of your handle. Either side is fine. Right now it really doesn't matter. Now we're going to grab the lining that corresponds with the larger side of our handle. We're going to put it right side to the wrong side of our zipper. I like to pre-put my zipper on, just easier working with one handle at a time and then adding my lining to my clips. It just makes it a little bit easier. Alright, we're going to take this to the sewing machine, and with a 3-stitch length, I'm going to sew at 1/4 of an inch all the way down. Alright, so I have got my 3-stitch length going, and then we're just going to sew 1/4 of an inch down. Alright, what I like to do, now that you've got your lining attached to your zipper and your outside fabric, is I'm going to take my lining and pull it back so that these edges, the edges of the main panel, outside panel, and the lining that I cut a little too long, I like to put them together like this. And with a 4-stitch length, I'm going to baste the sides closed. It'll make it a whole lot easier to work with later on. Then I'm going to come down and back up and top stitch along my zipper. Alright, so that's all done. Just base stitching around the edges and stitching the lining and the outer together, especially because this is a bound purse anyway, it just makes it a whole lot easier. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to grab the skinnier of the two zipper gussets, and I'm going to put right side of my outer fabric to the right side of my zipper. Alright, so I'm going to add my lining in just a second. Then I'm going to stitch 1/4 inch all the way down, take my outer fabric and my lining fabric and do just like I did on this side, and then base stitch the sides in place, and our zipper gusset will almost be done. Alright, so I am going to add a slip pocket. I have 2 pieces of fabric that are 6 by 7. I'm going to put them right side together, and I'm going to sew around 3 sides, starting at my shorter side and making sure to back stitch. Now I'm going to cut my corners. Then I'm going to turn it inside out. Alright, I'm just going to take my non-pointy scissors and get those corners out so it'll lay nice and flat. And then I'm just going to kind of push it down. I'm using waterproof canvas. If you're using it like a cotton or something, it'll be a whole lot easier to just kind of press it in place. Then I have a 1-inch strip of my orange. I wanted it to be on the outside. I'm going to cut it about 1/8 of an inch longer on each side. And then I'm going to grab some double-sided tape. So I'm going to put it along the top, and I'm going to put it along the bottom. Alright, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the bottom tape off. I have a center line marked already. I'm going to put my pocket not quite on the center line, but a little tiny bit below it so that this will fold over. Take the paper off the top, fold it over like so. I'm just going to be sewing across the top with the orange. I'm going to have my stitch length at a 4. Now I'm going to burn my threads on the edges, but I am also going to burn the ends of the vinyl because it does stick out a little bit, and if you wanted to, you could cut it just a little bit closer. So I'm just going to barely burn the end and then pinch it. Just be careful that you don't burn yourself, but pinching it like that after you burn it a little bit kind of makes sure that that raw edge doesn't become any more raw and you have funky edges. There we go. Alright, now I'm going to grab one of my lining panels and we'll attach it to that. Alright, I have got my lining panel, my little slip pocket that I just created. I'm going to put it right in the center with a 4 stitch length. I'm just going to go around, making sure to back stitch when I start and when I stop. Alright, now that I have got my lining pocket done and my face done, I'm going to go ahead and put these together. I would normally interface this with some Decoville Light, but I feel like since I'm using waterproof canvas, I really don't need to. It'll give it enough structure, but if you want, go ahead and add it before you add these 2 layers together. So I'm just going to sew 1/8 of an inch around the edge. If you wanted to do piping on this, I think it would look really nice, but my patience for piping is at like a 0, so especially when you have like a gazillion of them to make. Now that my front is done, I'm going to go trim up my lining fabric. Now we're going to work on the back panel. I don't know, I like putting the slip pocket on the front and then the zipper pocket on the back. You do however you would like to do it. But let's go work on the zipper pocket panel. That was easy to say. Alright, so we have got our zipper pocket panel, our back lining panel, marking tool, and a ruler. so I'm going to do this towards me. I'm going to center my ruler. So I have my ruler an inch up. We're going to find an inch in and make a mark, an inch in on this side and make a mark. Then we're going to connect those two marks. Now I'm going to move my ruler up half an inch and connect all those marks. Now I'm going to take my zipper pocket panel and I'm going to put it centered as I can get it. And because this is waterproof canvas and it moves all around, I'm just going to kind of take it like that to my sewing machine, but just kind of center it as best you can. So let's go sew that up. Alright, so we have got our stitch length at a 2.5. I'm just going to sew all the way around my rectangle. Alright, so if you want, you can make a line down the center. We're going to do what you normally do, where you have a little triangle coming out this way and a little triangle. I'll show you. But I'll just do it with my scissors because ain't nobody got time for that. So I'm going to cut a straight line about 1/4 of an inch, half an inch away from each edge. Then I'm going to grab my sharp scissors and I'm going to cut at an angle up to where my stitches are, and then I'm going to stop. You want to make sure that you do not cut your stitches because that will mess up the whole thing, and we don't want that. You'll have to go back and re-sew it. Alright, so you've got your little triangle. You need to have that on both ends. Then you can push your lining through to the other side. Waterproof canvas is nice because you can kind of just press it in place. If you wanted to, you can use some double-sided tape just to kind of make it lay flat. That's up to you. Alright, now when I've got it like I kind of want it, I may go get some double-sided tape just so that it lays down flat. We're going to have to go grab our zipper. So hopefully I showed you in the video how to push your lining through and cut that out. I believe I did, but this is another day. Alright, so we're going to grab our zipper tape, and a little bit of double-sided tape. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to add our double-sided tape onto each side of our zipper, and I like to do this first before I put my zipper on, just so that it kind of stays straight and is a little easier for me to work with. Now I'm going to put my zipper on, so we're just going to open that end, put the left side on first, then the right side, and then we're just going to push them down together. If it's straight across here, then you've done it right. Alright, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay this flat, take off my top paper, lay this down right in the center. You want to be able to feel a little bit of zipper tape on each side here. Press that down, lift this up, and then take off the other paper. Flip this back over and let it land where it wants to. Then I'm going to take it back to the sewing machine, and I'm going to sew all the way around. Alright, so I've got my stitch length at a 2.5, and we're just going to sew around. Alright, now we've got our zipper all sewn in. The next thing we're going to do is take this bottom up to our top, and then what I like to do is just clip a few clips along the top. And then we're going to sew around all three sides and close this zipper pocket up. So it should look like that. I am going to start on this side. Alright, so I have got my back panel and it's got the Decaville light on it. I'm going to put wrong side to wrong side, and I'm just going to kind of clip around, making sure they're matching up as best I can. And then I'm just going to clip around, and I'm going to use a 4 stitch length, 1/8 of an inch, and just base stitch these two together just to make it a little bit easier to putting the gusset on. So let me see. So per the usual, I ran out of bobbin. So I went ahead and just base stitched those two together. Now we're going to take care of the front because, as you may have noticed, I forgot something. I went ahead and I took my pattern piece for our little topper and I went ahead and I thought it looked kind of small, so I went ahead and laid it out, and about 1/4 of an inch all the way around. I just made it a little bit bigger because we like it chunky around here. So I cut out 2 of those and I've got them together just so that I can make sure everything was copacetic. I went ahead and took my lighter as well all the way around just to kind of get the rough edges. You could go ahead and edge coat this if you wanted to. It's up to you. In your pattern you have these little marks right here, and that's so that you can start sewing and going up and around here and stop, pull your threads through, burn them, and then put a rivet in so that we can attach it to the rest of our pumpkin face. And that's what allows us to have kind of this 3D effect right there. So I'm going to go to the sewing machine and take you with me, and we're just going to sew right along here. So I've got my stitch length out of 4. I'm going to start right at that mark, and I know it's going to be hard to see, but I'm going to make sure that I hold on to my threads when I start so that I can pull them through the back side when I'm done. And you're just going about 1/8 of an inch. Alright, and then stop. And I'm going to make this my back. So I'm going to pull the threads through, cut them, and burn the ends, and I'm going to have to go back and trim this up a little bit. You see that other side peeking out? We want to make sure this is nice and smooth all the way around. Alright, so I've got myself all straightened out. I went ahead and rounded out the corners, made sure that on both sides they looked similar. I went ahead and re-burnt the edges so that they're nice and smooth, and then I lifted this up and I made my hole where you're supposed to. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this back on my pumpkin, and I only made the hole in the back. Don't make it in the front or you'll see it. I'm going to lay this down on my pumpkin face, and I do still have my lining attached to the rest of my pumpkin. I only took it off the top. That's fine. I'm going to move it out of the way when I go to sew the rest of this on. I'm going to take my marking tool and I'm going to make a hole right where that rivet needs to go. And then I'm going to take it to my table, and I'm going to take my little hole punch and I'm going to punch a hole. I'm going to punch a hole through it, so give me 1 second. Alright, so now I've got my hole in my pumpkin, and I've got my hole in the back of this. Now I'm going to go get a rivet, and then I'm going to set this. At this point, it really doesn't matter what color rivet you use, because you're not going to see it in the final product. So I'm going to put the stem, the rivet with the stem, on through just the pumpkin face. I'm going to push my lining out of the way. I'm going to add my pumpkin stem, and I'm going to try and make sure that it's straight. And then I'm going to use my cap and put that on there. And then I'm going to try really hard to make sure you're standing up straight. And then you want to squash it real good so that it will stay in place. Here we go. Now what I'm going to do is go back to the sewing machine. I'm going to pull my lining out of the way. Then where you stopped, you're going to keep sewing all the way around till you get back to where you stopped again on this side. I've got my stitch length back at a 4 to make sure everything's matching. It's going to be difficult with the camera in my face. Alright. So just go slow. And it really does help if you don't have your lining underneath you there. But, you know, we do what we got to do. Alright, so our front panel is complete. I'm going to go back and base stitch my lining on, pulling this out of the way. I'm going to go and also make sure that you tie your knots on the back of this side. When you go to do the bottom of your stem, go ahead and tie those strings off in the back before you burn them. It'll help make sure that none of your stitching comes out or anything like that. Alright, so I'm going to make my knots, pull this out of the way, base stitch this back, and then we're going to go back to our zipper gusset. Alright, we've got our face, our back, we've got our zipper gusset almost done. We're going to grab 2 zippers. I like having 2 on my gusset. It's up to you. You can always do 1. I'm going to open up this side, left side first, then add the right side. Alright, so it's straight across. You've done it right. Bring it down to the other end. Open this up. Alright, we've got our zippers on. The next thing that you're going to need is your bottom gusset. Now, I'm not going to add purse feet to this one just because I cannot find my pattern for it to place them right. So I'm going to go ahead. I've done several of these without purse feet, and it's fine if that's one more thing you don't want to have to put onto your bag, more hardware I should say. So we're going to put the right side of the bottom of your panel to the right side of your zipper gusset. I'm just going to clip these together. Then you're going to take your lining fabric, right side to the right side of your other lining fabric, the bottom half of your bottom zipper gusset, or your top zipper gusset I should say. Alright, so we're going to clip these together. We're going to sew across at 1/4 inch, and then we're going to do the same thing on the other end. Alright, so I've got my stitch length to a 3. I'm going to back stitch. I'm not going to pull these back yet and do a top stitch. I'm going to show you how I sew my gusset together on each side so that it's less for me to work with. So we got the bottom gusset onto the other side of our zipper. We're going to add the lining, and I know you're really close right now, sorry. Alright, same thing, sewing across. Alright, so we've got this side and we've got this side sewn. Now what we're going to do is we're going to turn it in right side out, and then I'm going to take some clips and I am going to clip along my bottom gusset and just kind of joining them together, and then 1/8 of an inch I'm going to base stitch on both sides of my gusset so that they kind of become one piece, and it'll be a lot easier to work with when I go to put the front and the back of my purse on. So with a 4 stitch length, what I'm going to do is I can start on this, well, let's turn it inside out. Let's turn it wrong side out, because we want the top stitching across here to look nice, and I'd like to be able to see it. Okay, with a 4 stitch length, we'll go 1/8 of an inch all the way around. Alright, so your gusset should look like this now. One big gigantic circle. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to put the side pieces where they meet up. We're going to try and find the center of the top of our zipper gusset and make a little clip. You can make a little mark, it's up to you. We're going to do that for both the top and the bottom. Shot at me. And we're going to grab our back panel and do the same thing. We need a top and a bottom. I like to do the front last just because I don't want it like bent up any more than it has to be, the little stem on the top. So I like to save that for last. Okay, so for mine, this is the back because this is where the handle is. This is going to be the back of my bag, and this is going to be the front of my bag. So I'm going to turn this inside out, and the larger side is going to be where I'm going to connect my back to. So I'm going to match up the top of my pumpkin with the top of my zipper gusset, and then clip all the way around. I have got my stitch length at a 4. We're going to go all the way around the bag of 1/8 of an inch just to base stitch the gusset and the back panel together, and then we'll bind it, and that's when we'll use 1/4 of an inch. So we're all base stitched around. The next thing that I'm going to do is take a 1-inch piece of waterproof canvas, and then I am going to clip this all the way around to keep it in place. And then we'll just sew again at 1/4 of an inch. Now we've got the front panel left. I need to just attach it. I went ahead and made my center marks on the top and the bottom, and then we're just going to put them right side to right side, matching up our marks first, and then clipping all the way around. Alright, so we're going to bind again and then sew up, and you're almost done. Alright, so we're all sewn up. The next part is why I love this pattern so much, is because it is so easy to turn inside out. The zipper gusset being so wide makes it so easy to just turn it inside out. And after you've birthed like a gazillion bags, it's such a breath of fresh air to have a nice, easy bag to birth. Alright, so I'm going to do a little bit of fussing with him and get him all straight, but he's so cute. I'll straighten him up. Alright, so what did you think? I hope you guys like this video. I hope you go check out this pattern from Carbon Chic Patterns. It's a really, really, really cool pattern, and I would highly recommend it because it is, I believe, as long as you know how to do binding, it's a really beginner-friendly bag, and it comes together pretty quickly. There's a couple more videos out there. I know there's a frog and a panda, and I think people are kind of slowly but surely making videos for each one. So if there's another one that you're not quite sure about, I'm sure somebody will make a video about it. I can't wait to make some more of these bags because I have some really cool ideas for Christmas, which I will tell you about now. So in my Cricut design space, I went in and I took, for the pattern, she gives you an SVG of just the main part of the bag, so the front or the back of the bag, without the pumpkin face or anything like that on it, when you buy the Hugo regular pattern. So you get just the basic shape. You can go on Etsy, or if you create your own, and you can take an SVG file, put it on top. I went ahead and I centered it. Then I selected all of it, and then I did extract or something like that, and it will make your cutout in the center of your Hugo bag. So you can do countless things. I had a customer ask me for a Casper the Friendly Ghost, I have done a Jack Skellington that I got off Etsy. This bag is endless if you know how to work your Cricut design space. You can kind of put anything on the inside. One of my customers was asking me, because I had a picture of Mando and I had a picture of Yoda, and she's like, are you going to put it on the front and the back? And I'm like, that's a really good idea. So you can do just about anything. I hope you guys liked this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Or if you want to subscribe and see the rest of the bags that we have coming up, make sure you hit that subscribe button. If you have any questions or comments, leave them in the comment section down below. Thanks again for joining Faith Works Designs. Bye guys.